we're ready for our last presentation before the authors panel. And we're going to have Mr. Nick Diunte present about the Newark Eagles and the New York Giants. And before I forget, silent auction ends at 8 o'clock. And the banquet, there's no dress code. I'll wear a tie because I like wearing a tie at a banquet. But if you come in a tux, that's great. After 5, that's great. There's no dress code. People ask me that all the time. Shorts and t-shirts are good, yes.
Where will it be?
About 2 doors over.
Okay.
Listen to the noise.
Well, that's because of Pittsburgh, you know that.
Linda.
Yes.
Yeah, people ask you that.
We don't want to go that history.
No, you don't want to go there, but that's why. That's why people ask, especially women.
Right. So,
Call them anyway.
all you women who brought me down, I look forward to seeing. Go forward, Nick.
Thank you very much. Welcome, everyone. I'm here to talk a little bit about Ray Dandridge and his journey from the Newark Eagles to the New York Giants. Before we start with the presentation, there's many players out there that are worth the price of admission on defense alone. Some names that may come to mind: Ozzie Smith, Ray Ordonez, Omar Vizquel, more recently maybe someone like Brandon Phillips. Ray Dandridge was the mold for that, but not only for his glove, but with his bat and his speed. Ray played all over the world, and here's a little bit of Ray talking about some of the nicknames that he picked up.
I done got so many nicknames. They call me Danny, some call me Danny, just like Monte. A few guys call me Danny. And then a whole lot of people call me Hoops. All that kind of stuff. And in the foreign countries, they call me Monte. And in Cuba, they call me Kalua. They don't call me everything in the book.
So Ray earned a variety of nicknames as he went over the globe. As he said, Americo, Talua, Hooks, Danny, Squatty for his bow-legged appearance. Ray broke into the Negro Leagues in 1933. He was recruited off the satellites of Piedmont, Virginia by Candy Jim Taylor for the Detroit Stars. Dandridge was initially reluctant to go as he had never really left the area per se to travel. Born in Richmond, went up to Buffalo and came back to Richmond, but Taylor didn't really take the no for an answer. And after playing a game, Dandridge initially said no, and he came back the next morning with the bus in front of his house, and after giving him a $25 bonus, he took off. He really credits Taylor for his development as a hitter. Initially, when Dandridge came up, he thought, like most of us, that he was a power hitter, and quickly he found out otherwise, and Taylor helped him really learn how to hit the ball to all fields, taking him out for extra batting practice, and Dandridge really later developed that reputation as being a bad ball hitter in the same mode as Yogi Berra. His stay with the Stars was not that long. The team disbanded by the end of the season due to a lack of financing. So how did Ray get to Newark? He signed with Dick Lundy's Newark Dodgers after leaving Detroit. Lundy brought him in to play third base, and what happened was the original third baseman that the team had was late to report to spring training. And by the time the guy came back, Lundy gave him his walking papers due to the play of Dandridge. He batted .403 in 1934, which was a subsequent year. He was named to the East-West All-Star Game in 1935.
Now, how did this come about from the Dodgers to the Brooklyn? All right, now, that was the year, I think it was in 1935. That's when the Dodgers was ended. And the Malloy from the Brooklyn Dodgers, whatever it was, during that time, he took over the franchise. And he moved into Newark, and therefore they changed it from the Newark Dodgers, Brooklyn Dodgers, and made it the Newark Eagles. That's when they were in 1936. 1936 was the Newark Eagles, and that's why we went from them. The Manleys took over.
So Dandridge spoke a little bit about how the Eagles and the Dodgers merged, and this is how he came to play in Newark. The Newark team had a spectacular infield, which earned them the reputation of being the $1 million infield, along with Dixie and two other future Hall of Famers, Mule Suttles and Willie Wells. The other first baseman for the team was a gentleman by the name of James Redmore, who is still living. In some written correspondence, Moore wrote that I've never seen a third baseman that could field his position any better than Ray Dandridge. You're going to hear Ray talking a little bit about this $1 million infield.
That's how we formed the New Eagles. Now, just like Big C. Big C wasn't with the New Dodgers. So the Brooklyn Dodgers had Big C. So they put Willie Wells. And here's our infield where we hit. I was playing third base. Willie Wells was playing short. Big C was playing second. And we were sort of switched.
So this infield, again, earned that reputation for their fantastic defensive play, and they thought that they would be worth $1 million, and it was referenced like that in the papers. A little bit more about Dandridge and Newark during the late 1930s. Batted .372 and .340 in 1937 and 1938. Was named to the East-West All-Star game for both of those years, but he was withheld from the 1938 game due to a fear of injury. FM Manley withheld all the Newark Eagles players from the team that year from playing in the All-Star game. Dandridge later moved on to Mexico. As many other players did at the time, they jumped ship for a higher paycheck. Dandridge played significantly more in Mexico. Here's Monte Irvin talking a little bit about Ray Dandridge.
One of the best that ever played third base. He had charisma and style. And once you saw him, you would want to come back to see some more, see him play some more. When you first saw him, you would say to him, I've heard so much about this guy. You know, he looks funny. He's bow-legged. You know, what's so great about him? When you see him out there feeling the ball and the way he does it and the way he throws it, he became a drawing card. He became a drawing card everywhere he played. In Newark, I played with him in Mexico City. Down there they loved him. So he was just a great player. Cuba, they said a train can go through his leg, but not a baseball. Very big license and a lot of charisma. Yeah. Well, when I played, he was playing second base with Wells. Wells playing shortstop. I was playing third, and he was playing second. And then we had a great combination. Willie Wells and Ray Dandridge. Yeah, what a combination that was.
You know, so in earlier presentations, you heard about Irvin and Dobie being a double play combination, but Dandridge and Wells was really something to be seen, and Irvin spoke to me at length just about how amazing it was to see those two work because the ball barely touched anything getting in between their gloves. They said they were really quick with the release, turn to double play. Dandridge spent 7 summers in Mexico. He was recruited there by Jorge Pascual, the very rich businessman who also gained a degree of notoriety when the major league players started jumping to Mexico. Leon Day, Josh Gibson, and Willie Wells went over with Dandridge to Mexico again with this lure of a bigger payday and better living conditions. While Dandridge was playing in Mexico, he had a full-time maid. His children went to the best schools. He did not experience the racial discrimination that he faced in the United States and really was treated like royalty while he was out there. One of his teammates in Mexico was Art Pennington, and Art Pennington's going to talk a little more about Ray Dandridge.
Well, Ray was the third baseman in the country, and he was real bow-legged right on the ground, so I rated him pretty high. He was a good ball player. Yep, he was a great ball player, not good. He was the greatest third
about Ray's time later in Bismarck towards the end of the presentation. So how did Ray get back to Newark? Ray played for them in 1942 and 1944. His return in 1944 came about when FM Manley threatened his draft status. So he returned to play for both of those seasons. He was selected for the All-Star team in both years, but he left in 1942 before the All-Star game. Why did he go back to Mexico in between both seasons? Dandridge went back because of failed negotiations with FM Manley. Both years he asked for raises and she steadfastly refused. One of the things I encountered during my research, now this says Dandridge before Adobe, and yes, Dandridge did come before Adobe on the Newark Eagles, but Dandridge was really a prospect for Bill Veeck in coming to the Cleveland Indians before Larry Doby. Dandridge was playing in Mexico when Jackie Robinson was signed by Branch Rickey and the Brooklyn Dodgers in 1946. And he was quickly contacted by Bill Veeck, and Veeck pleaded with him to return stateside to join the Cleveland Indians to be the first black player for them. But Dandridge had some trepidations about doing so, which he talks about.
They would be, and all of them, they want to get me out of Mexico to come and play with the Cleveland. All of them, they want me to come. But all right, now, how in the world can I come from Mexico? And the bar was closed. Jackie came in. I said, now, possibility this man will give me almost $10,000 a year. I don't work myself up from $125 to $10,000 a year, and all my expenses and in the park fee. Now, how can I be there and come back here to take a chance to go there and make? But I was scared to take a chance because I was a deputy. If I lose this hand, I know this thing now. I got all my family. You see, get my daughter told you just now. We've been in Mexico. She's been there.
That's before they got to the going to.
Yeah, that's cool. See,
You did have a chance.
yeah, I did. I had a chance. I had a chance there.
Because Ryan Lilly was the second baseman.
Okay.
So as you can see, Dandridge clearly stated that he was afraid to leave Mexico and the good salary that he had and all the care that his family had for the uncertainty of what was going on here in the United States. Dandridge, a Cuban. Here he's pictured on the Marianao team. Actually, before we go into that, this is Julio Becker. Julio Becker played for the Washington Senators and the Minnesota Twins and was a teammate of his on the Marianao Tigers when he played winter ball in Cuba.
I played with Dandridge, a couple of years. I played with Dandy, would play third base. He would play third base with my club. Dandy was Dandridge, I would put Dandridge in the same category of Blue Robinson. That's how great the third baseman he was. And when he hit it, he hit the ball all over the place. He was almost incredible. Dandridge was, and I was already 40 years old. I was already 40 years old when I played with him. And he made up the door too. I mean, he was really a great player. Oh, it could have been a fantastic player in the big league. He was just, Dandridge was, like I say, I played 2 seasons with him in Cuba, and I could say that I can see a better third baseman, and it can be a better third baseman than Dandridge was. Well, the equal, but better, I got it. It's like, he was outstanding.
If you look next to him, Minnie Minoso here on the Marianao team. Dandridge spent a bulk of his winters playing in Cuba, mainly for Cienfuegos and Marianao. He was also part of the Federation League that played there when they broke off for that season. So how did Dandridge become a Cuban in the Negro Leagues? Once more players were being signed, Dandridge was lured to come back here to be a player manager for the New York Cubans in 1949, but Dandridge, like many of the players on the New York Cubans team, was not a Cuban. The team was run by Alex Pompez. He recruited not only Dandridge, but also Dave Barnhill to play for the team, and they were connected in their journey to the New York Giants, and Pompez lured him that way.
We was in Petersburg, Virginia. We was in spring training. And he called me up and said, Ray, he said, how do you like to go to Minneapolis? The Giants were on the second baseman. Second baseman. You know, I played all the time. I say, me and him had a little conversation. And I said, what do you mean you want to second base? And then he said, well, I recommend you to go to Minnesota. And I said, me and another pitcher on the team named Dave Barnhill. And he was in the same category I was. The force we made it was right there.
So now, what he's referring to as the farthest we made it was right there. That as far as both of them went in terms of the minor leagues, was playing at the AAA level. But part of the way through the season, after playing for the Cubans, they did go to Minneapolis. So like Dandridge said, he was brought in to play second base. That didn't last for too long, which I'm going to explain in another minute or so. Dandridge and Barnhill both made their debut with the Millers during a doubleheader on June 5th, 1949. The pitcher for Louisville that day was Mickey McDermott, who later went to pitch for the Boston Red Sox and the New York Yankees, and McDermott was known for having a blazing fastball, which Dandridge found out about right away.
And McDermott was pitching. And he had struck out 18. And so Tommy Heath asked me, he said, hey Ray, say your name Ray. I said, yeah. I said, yeah, my name Ray. Say, you think you can hit it? He said, when the last time you played? I said, well, I just played yesterday. He said, do you think you hit that guy? I said, well, I'll go up there and try. First when I went up, you know, the first time when I went up and faced him, you know what he did to me. I didn't do it. He threw it on my head. I didn't pay no mind. So I got back up. Next one, he had to come down in the phone, come right down in the groove with it, and I hit it right by his head.
Many players that I spoke to said Dandridge had a knack for doing this. That if he got knocked down by a pitcher, the next pitch that came, he sent right back up the box. Almost an uncanny ability to do this for the pitchers that would knock him down. Dandridge often would hit the ball right back up the middle on the next pitch. But this was Dandridge's introduction, I guess his way of showing that he would not be intimidated by a rookie like McDermott. Speaking of rookies, so 1949 was his rookie season at the ripe age of 35. Dandridge was a rookie all over again. But again, like many of the things that we're seeing, that did not last for long. Dandridge was inserted immediately into the lineup and produced and quickly established himself as a veteran presence on the club. A few weeks into his time, the Giants sent down Bobby Hoffman and they moved Dandridge over to third base. When the manager asked Barnhill if Dandridge could play third base, he said, it's like putting the rabbit in the briar patch. So Dandridge quickly went over to third base, and after they saw him field a swinging bunt throw on a run, they knew right away that they had something special. At the end of the season, he was named League Rookie of the Year again at 35, almost akin to when Ichiro Suzuki was named Rookie of the Year in the major leagues, but in essence, he had spent 10 years building his skills in Japan and playing against major league caliber competition. It was somewhat of, I don't want to say a joke, but it was funny that Dandridge was named Rookie of the Year when in essence he was the oldest player on his team. He finished second in the league with a .362 average to Tom Wright, who would later go on to play for the Washington Senators. On that team was Pete Burnside. Pete Burnside went on to have a major league career with the Giants as well as the Washington Senators. At the time, Burnside was just signed, and he was sent to Minneapolis. Minneapolis was where he was sent. He did not play for Minneapolis that season, but spent about a month with them, pitching batting practice and working out. When I spoke to Burnside, Burnside had some very fond memories of Dandridge mentoring him during that time.
Ray was, he was spectacular and a great showman, and he usually was one of the last to leave the clubhouse, and I was too. I didn't have anywhere to go except back to the hotel, and he was really a wonderful person to me. And he said, you know, I could throw pretty good and stuff. He said, you got a future, but you don't belong here. We would just talk. He was really just very kind to me. Well, that would have been 49. He ended up hitting about 365. And he was a great, great showman. And I guess that came from a little bit in the Black League, you know, the Negro League. And at that time he was playing with, he'd been in the Mexican League, and he was playing with a big glove, and they later outlawed it. But I played with Brooks Robinson more than I played with Dandridge, but Dandridge was all of what Brooks was, I think.
Right.
And I don't think I ever saw him make a play where he didn't get the guy by one step. If he got a line drive, you know, a real hard one hit at him, he'd throw a rainbow over there. If he was a close play, then he'd throw a bullet over there, you know, to first base. He was just unbelievable. And what impressed me was I was nothing on the club, and I really wasn't ready to be there. He just said, go down and learn the game and play and come back. And he used to talk to him before we left the ballpark. He was boy, the people in Minneapolis just loved him. You know, they called him Dandy, and he unfortunately never got an inning in the major league, which I think was bad. They had Hank Thompson was playing third base for him in New York. They had quite a few black players on the team, and I think they just probably thought Thompson was as good as he was, and he was a real favorite in Minneapolis. There's no doubt of that. And you know, he was not a showboat in any way that I remember. He was just awfully nice to me.
So what Burnside had said is many of his teammates relayed that Dandridge had this knack of making the runner run and getting him by a half step. And at least a dozen different teammates and opponents had said the same thing about him, and also commented on his glove, which was really large and flat. Many people noted that as well. He was named the most valuable player of the American Association in 1950, and Jimmy Pearsall
Ray was one of the first black players to play, and he was a terrific player. He was a third baseman. Right, he was up in age too when he was playing, and had a tremendous sense of humor, and good hitter. You know, he was. I don't know if he played much in the big league, but he had great talent. He was one of course, those Negro leagues in those days were as good as us players. You know, Dandridge had to play on a lofty field.
Yeah.
And Brooks was a great player, but Dandridge, I would say he was as good a player as fielder as Brooks. But you know, it's just you had to see him to appreciate him. And he didn't look like Brooks. You know, he didn't look. They had the same kind of actions, but he had great hands. He had a great arm, and he just played that position as well as he could play it.
Now, Pearsall had said that Dandridge had a sense of humor. What I came to find out was that Pearsall would go Dandridge from the field, from the bench, and Dandridge would give it right back to him. And so after that, they developed that relationship of kind of heckling each other back and forth a bit when they played. But Pearsall would instigate that, which doesn't surprise me, kind of knowing Pearsall's history. With Dandridge came Dave Barnhill, and he is kind of a forgotten piece of this. Jack Krimian, who played for the Kansas City Athletics later on, was a pitcher in the league for Columbus. He tells a little quick story about Barnhill, which involved Dandridge.
He was the one that they sent all the balls to the league office were cut every time he pitched. At 25 that I heard that the league office were cut, and nobody could figure how they were cut. And I don't know what it was doing. Everybody come down that Dandridge was cutting and giving them to Barnes. Because they couldn't find, they checked Barnes a couple times and could find nothing sharp on him, you know, with cut a ball.
Dandridge denied, this is something that Dandridge vehemently denied, that he was cutting the ball, but so did Barnhill. Another report I read was that Barnhill during the game would keep turning away from the field, but they couldn't tell if Barnhill was cutting it on his buckle or if Dandridge was cutting it when it was coming around the horn. I have another story, but I'm going to skip it from another player who tells something similar. Ray Dandridge also helped to mentor Willie Mays, who played with the Minneapolis Millers the next season. Dandridge also knew Mays through his time in Cuba together, and Willie Mays said when Ray Dandridge got inducted to the Hall of Fame, Ray Dandridge helped me tremendously when it came to Minneapolis. Ray was a part of me. There's Dandridge, Barnhill, and Mays from their time in '51. Dandridge also went on to say that he couldn't do much for Mays hitting-wise. Mays hit almost 500 during the time he was in AAA. But he helped him a little bit defensively with his throws, but with Mays, there really wasn't showing him much at the time. Just to take a look, again, Dandridge didn't make the Giants, but here's the stats of their reserve infielders for 1950 and 1951, when Dandridge had his big seasons for Minneapolis. So 1950, you can look at 4 reserve infielders for the Giants, and as well as 1951, and Monte Irvin is going to tell you a little bit about the discussion he had with Leo DeRocher.
Hank Thompson and we went to Leo in 1950. Bill Rigney and Jack Walkie was our third baseman, so we said, Leo, if you want to win the pennant, all you got to do is go down there and call up Dandridge. He's a hell of a fielder and can hit, and can run, can do everything. But they had the quota system then, and Stoner wouldn't bring him up. That was the only reason. He said that, age and all that. Until you give out, if the damn man can still play, what difference does it make? How old he is? As a baby was old as hell and could still pitch, so that didn't make any difference.
A name that might be familiar to some of you on here is Artie Wilson. Wilson was sent down and Mays came up in his place. Dandridge thought he was going to go up after Mays, but again, sadly, that did never happen. One of the opportunities that Dandridge might have missed came after Hank Thompson got hurt in 1951. He was spiked and was injured. They were going to call up Dandridge at the time to replace Thompson, and the problem was Dandridge wasn't available. Dandridge ruptured his appendix 3 days earlier and was not available, prompting the Giants to move Bobby Thompson to third base. So, it might have been Russ Hodges calling Ray Dandridge's name instead of Bobby Thompson if he didn't get hurt. But again, this is one of the bigger what-ifs in sports. His final year in Minneapolis, again, still one of the veteran presences of the league. Alongside the infield was Darrell Spencer, who went along to have a long career with the Giants and also played in Japan and was one of the foremost major leaguers in Japan. Spencer talks a little bit about their relationship as well.
Minneapolis, but it seems like he's been there. Dandridge was kind of a manager on the field, as far as I was concerned, because that was my first year in the league. And there was a lot of players that had been in the league, when he played. So he helped me a lot on moving me around in the infield. Heck of a hitter, my gosh. I'm surprised. I guess the main reason he didn't get a shot at that time, he was a little bit old. He'd been playing quite a bit at that age. And then before that, there just wasn't that many blacks playing. And he'd have come along, if he'd have been about 33 or 32 or something like that, I'm sure he'd have got the shot in the big league.
Horace Stoneham, who ran the Giants, refused to bring Dandridge up from Minneapolis because he said he was too much of a drawing card. In Minneapolis. Dandridge, the interview with Dandridge from 1979, even that far after the fact, Dandridge was still very upset with Stoneham and doesn't really hold back about it.
I told Horace from himself, right in front of his face, just like I'm talking to you. I told Horace I don't want to talk. That man bugged me all day when I went to Minnesota for the old Thomas game. I said, Horace, I don't want to talk to you. I said, you had a chance to sell my contract. You had a chance to bring me up and everything else, and you wouldn't do it. This is what I told him in front of his face. I said, only thing I wanted to do is get the Major League. I said, I did everything in my leagues that I could do for you, and still, you wouldn't bring me up. And I said, I don't want to talk to you. I walked away. I walked away from him. I said, you could have called me up in that if I didn't stay up for 1 week. I just couldn't say it. I hit the Major. And that was my major thing was. My major thing was, if I could get the Major Leagues and just the name just get there for 1 week, say that. And that's the reason why. When the Giants need all of the ball players, when the ball, they skip on the head when you get that damn thing. You know what Horace told me, bro? You know what he told me? He said, the reason I didn't let you go is because you was the running part of Minnesota.
That's absurd.
Dandridge later went to play in the Coast League in 1953, but then got hurt at the end of the season, and he moved to Bismarck, North Dakota. Do I have another minute or two to play one? Okay, all right. I'm going to skip because there was an interview with one of his teammates from Bismarck. Dandridge was inducted to the Hall of Fame in 1987 by the Veterans Committee, and here he is pictured with Catfish Hunter and Billy Williams, who he went in with, and this is a thank you to all the players that it interviewed, and some references, Danny Day and the Delaware, James Riley, baseball reference for the stats, and most of the Dandridge interview came from the University of Kentucky.
Outstanding.
Thank you, Steve.
Yes, we have some questions for Nick.
Yes, Craig. Well, I have two questions. Number one, was there really a quota system on teams like the Giants, the Dodgers, whoever had integrated back then? Was there a quota system? And you said something that befuddled me. I didn't know that Effa Manley was on the draft board. How did she threaten his draft status?
All right, so let me answer the first question. There was an unofficial quota system, and again, that had to probably exist in theory more than hard practice, but especially with the Dodgers and Giants, Ricky was quoted about worried about having too many black players at one time, and I'm sure the Giants were at the same, where they kept it to 3 or 4 on the team. Was there an official? There was nothing official, but this was one of the unwritten codes that kind of existed at the time. And again, teams like the Dodgers and Giants were going out on a proverbial limb, having a quantity of African American players on their team when there were still teams in the league that had none. I didn't read that deeply into Manley and how her involvement with the draft board, other than she may have been able to make some sort of report that they were stateside long enough or able enough to be in the draft, but apparently she had some sort of pull, but I didn't get a level of depth enough to like fully answer it.
Okay.
Regarding Effa and the draft board, she was very unhappy with Wells and Gavin. She's gone to Mexico.
Sure.
She wrote the draft board and tried to get them reclassified as 1A. But they told her to mind her own business.
Thank you.
And when did you conduct these
Interviews, sure. Well, the interviews were conducted primarily between 2008 and 2010, and why they were conducted was I saw a presentation from Dr. Hogan, which we have, but I'm kind of past my time limit, that Dandridge had said he wanted to step 1 foot in the major leagues, and I wanted to find out a little bit more about why, so I started interviewing players that played like with him and against him in the American Association, because I knew there were still guys alive to tell the stories.
Did you conduct them face to face?
Over the, mostly, the ones here were over the phone. You know, they were all over the phone.
We got it a few minutes before the
Okay. May I take a question or two more? And I guess.
Just take Ted and
Okay,
Phil's
thank
question,
you.
so we, everybody get a break.
Pete Burnside, it's my
Yes.
understanding that his college thesis or one of his college papers was about the Negro
Yes.
League. Did you discuss that?
Yes, I did. With him? Yes, I did discuss it with him, and he found it just fabulous that he had a chance to play with someone like Dandridge and Barnhill to put it in. The depth of his thesis, we talked about it, but I don't remember like the specifics of it, but we did talk about it when I spoke. Phil?
That was a great presentation. I just hope everybody knows that you're a New York City public school teacher.
Thank you. Hall of Fame speech.
Yeah, why
We
don't
got
we
play.
show Hall of Fame speeches? Ray is so special.
Okay, while you set that up, I will try to answer Craig's question about the quota system, officially or unofficially.
Unofficial.
Well, if you look at the rosters of teams during that period, you always see an even number of black players because they were roommates.
Yeah.
This is why Jackie Robinson traveled with Sam Lacy. He had to have a roommate until he went to Montreal, and he had Johnny Wright. You go to